today we're going to take a look at Jim Varney's career on VHS. Now, of course, when it comes to that, the four main Ernest movies get the most press, but today we're going to take a look at Jim Varney's non-theatrical and/or direct-to-video work with Varney on video. Through the 80s, the lovable character Ernest P. Worrell would take the world by storm, and soon he would dominate video store shelves. It all began in 1986, which would prove to be a huge year for Jim Varney, the Ernest P. Worrell character, and Know What I Mean Home Video. Know What I Mean Home Video was the exclusive distributor of all Ernest/Jim Varney material, and 1986 would see them release three major distributions, one of them being Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam, but that had a theatrical release, so we won't be talking about that. They would also release the video simply called Know What I Mean, or at least that's what the slipcover says it is. The label on the tape itself says otherwise, as this is a bit of a compilation piece. Yes, this video contains the comedy special Hey Vern, It's My Family album and Ernest and Vern's greatest TV hits, with the latter being a showcase of some Ernest commercials and the former being a comedy special all about Ernest P. Worrell's family. And this would be a display of Jim Varney's excellent acting ability as he would portray different family members. Nowadays, this is a little tricky to find, as it is among the rarer Jim Varney tapes. 1986 would also see the release of possibly the greatest Ernest VHS ever, the Ernest Film Festival. And this is a compilation of 101 Ernest commercials, and man, I can't tell you how many times I rented this as a kid and as an adult. And this isn't as hard to find today, but the prices can still get pretty high. In 1987, Know What I Mean Home Video would give us the VHS enigma known as Win $10,000 or Just Count on Having Fun, which was essentially Volume 2 of the Ernest Film Festival, but as the name implies, it was also a contest where you could win $10,000. I do cover this VHS in great detail in another video, which the link will be in the description if you wanted to check that out. Know What I Mean Home Video would then close up shop later on in 1988, and though they only gave us 4 VHS releases, those 4 releases were pretty huge. They would later sell off the distribution rights to these properties in 1990 to Good Times Home Video, and Good Times Home Video would repackage them and re-release them in 1992. They would rename the Ernest Film Festival to Ernest's Greatest Hits Volume 1, and then they would rename Win $10,000 to Ernest's Greatest Hits Volume 2. And with that, they would cut out all the contest bits, leaving only the commercials. And besides simply just renaming the Ernest Film Festival to Ernest's Greatest Hits Volume 1, they would also cut out the Dr. Otto and the Riddle of the Gloom Beam commercial, which was featured in that VHS. So the only place to see that commercial would be that VHS, and it's odd that they would cut it out considering that Dr. Otto was now a Good Times Home Video property. Who knows why they did it, but they did, and it just adds to the appeal of the original Ernest Film Festival VHS. 1992 would prove to be a big year for Good Times Home Video regarding Ernest VHS, because they would also release episodes of the Hey Vern, It's Ernest television show. And those episodes were originally released on VHS in 1989 by Buena Vista Home Video under their Deke Toontime Video moniker. What's interesting about the Good Times Home Video Hey Vern, It's Ernest VHS releases is that they would distribute them in cardboard sleeves, but also in plastic clamshells. Typically, I wouldn't think twice about this, but it's odd that they would do this in the same year. It was pretty common for distributors to utilize 2 different packaging designs for their releases, but that would be within different years. However, Good Times Home Video would utilize both of these packaging designs for the same releases within the same year, 1992. It cost a pretty big chunk of money to manufacture and distribute VHS, so this was a strange play for Good Times Home Video. 1992 would be the final year for their involvement with Ernest VHS, and in 1994, M-Shell Home Video would pick up the reins with the VHS release of the comedy special Your World As I See It, which was a compilation of short films that featured Jim Varney portraying many different characters, including Ernest. It was hosted by Astor Clements, one of the many Jim Varney characters, and you might recognize him from Ernest Saves Christmas, though that version of Astor Clements is slightly different than the one we see in Your World As I See It. In 1995, M-Shell Home Video would continue to crank out Ernest VHS and give us the first direct-to-video Ernest movie with Slam Dunk Ernest, and this is where things sort of go in a downward spiral for the Ernest movies. This, as well as the other direct-to-video Ernest movies, are not very well regarded, and basically everyone would have much rather had no more Ernest movies at all, instead of seeing the beloved character succumb to a direct-to-video fate. Because direct-to-video is where film franchises go to die. Slam Dunk Ernest would be followed by Ernest Goes to Africa in 1997, which was released by Monarch Home Video, and oddly enough, this does have two different North American distributions. Yeah, Monarch Home Video would release it in the US, but they would also release it in Canada in association with CFP Video. So if you're looking for this, just keep in mind that there's two different versions. And somehow the CFP Video version was released a year before the movie was made. 1996? Okay, so apparently CFP Video are also time travelers. Monarch Home Video would release the last of the Ernest movies in 1998 with Ernest Joins the Army. And this also would have two different North American VHS distributions. Once again, it would be distributed in the US by Monarch Home Video and in Canada by Monarch Home Video in association with CFP Video. This time, CFP Video would not engage in time travel and have the help of Columbia TriStar Home Video. Wow, that's a pretty big associate distributor to have for this movie. So just like Ernest Goes to Africa, if you're looking for this VHS, just know that there's two different versions. Ernest was certainly Jim Varney's bread and butter, but the 90s would see Varney on videos that weren't Ernest related at all. In 1992, Jim Varney would get a hankering to do hunting safety videos, and in effect, introducing us to another new character with The Misadventures of Bubba. This was released by Young Bucks, and they would also release the sequel in 1993. And these are incredibly expensive nowadays, with the sequel being the rarer of the two tapes. Now, if you're thinking that Ernest Saves Christmas is the only Christmas movie that Jim Varney has ever done, well, get ready to be wrong. He would provide a voice in the 1997 direct-to-video animated Christmas film Annabelle's Wish, which was released by Hallmark Home Entertainment and pretty much was immediately forgotten about. Typically, that's where I would end this show, but Jim Varney would not be done with giving us treats on VHS. He would also guest star in Bible Man Jr., a Christian children's show. And let me be clear here, I don't have a problem with that, and I can respect this. It's just that these sorts of things are incredibly corny and awfully cringeworthy, and this is certainly no exception. He would guest star in the episode entitled Thankful for Jesus, which was released on VHS in the year 2000 by Crossroads Home Video. And this would be one of his last on-screen appearances, as he would pass away in February of 2000. I hate to end this on a downer, but that's the way it goes. The man had an awesome career. Whether it be on VHS, television, or the big screen, Jim Varney was incredibly versatile and awfully underrated.